Surrounded by these stunning images of Jacqueline Kennedy here at the museum, we're also reminded that strip club owner Jack Ruby claimed that he killed Oswald so the First Lady would not have to sit through a lengthy trial. But was Oswald's murder a random act, or was it part of a bigger conspiracy to keep him from talking?
Did you kill the president?
Nobody has said that to me yet.
Just 2 days after the assassination of John F. Kennedy,
I saw the pistol in his hand.
accused killer Lee Harvey Oswald was gunned down while handcuffed to Detective Jim Lavelle.
I attempted to turn Oswald behind me, but I was too close to him.
We'll never know what Oswald was going to say. Was he just the lone nutcase?
A trial might have answered questions of conspiracy, but with Oswald dead, investigators focused on Ruby.
How was he able to get that close to the most wanted man in the world?
Because all the cops in Dallas liked him because he gave them free stuff, including hookers.
The actions by Ruby in shooting Oswald were not spontaneous, and that he probably had assistance.
When Andy Purdy served on the HSCA, he examined Ruby's activities and unusual access to police headquarters.
I certainly believe that Officer Dean, who was in charge of security, let Jack Ruby into the basement.
Patrick Dean's involvement has remained a question.
He had failed a polygraph back at the time of the assassination, information that I'm not sure was actually turned over to the FBI.
But Ruby's ties with law enforcement went beyond Dallas.
Ruby worked for the Federal Bureau of Investigation when he was in Chicago. There's no question about that. It's been absolutely documented.
J. Edgar Hoover said back in '59 that they'd had regular contact with Jack Ruby as an informer.
Jack Ruby spent practically his whole life working in mob-controlled enterprises.
David Kaiser is a historian and author of The Road to Dallas.
He couldn't make the payoffs he owed. He was looking for help wherever he could get it.
Jack Ruby made calls to individuals associated with organized crime.
A report by Ruby's sister that Ruby got a phone call right at this time and went in the other room and threw up. Maybe he got a phone call that said, "Ruby, we need you to do something for us."
But Mark Lane insists the CIA had the means and the motive to kill Kennedy.
The CIA decided better him than us and killed him.
Following the disastrous attempt to topple Castro in the Bay of Pigs invasion, the president was furious with the CIA.
This was a struggle of Cuban patriots.
Castro's troops outnumbered the CIA-backed operation. The president felt humiliated and promised to, quote, splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces.
And he already had plans to set up a new intelligence agency where Robert Kennedy was going to head this new agency.
What Robert Kennedy didn't know when he first came into office was that they had been recruited by the CIA, Trafficante and Giancana, but also Marcello, to assassinate Fidel Castro.
They had profitable enterprises. They had gambling, horse racing. They wanted to get back into the business of making money in Cuba.
2 months before Kennedy's murder, Oswald applied for a Cuban visa at the Soviet embassy in Mexico City.
What Oswald was actually doing was to try to get into Cuba to take a shot at Fidel Castro as part of an assassination plot. There were numerous such plots. They were ongoing in 1963. Some were organized by the CIA, some by the mob. Exactly who was behind this one, I don't know.
But the mob grew angrier with the Attorney General's all-out war against organized crime.
Did you say that SOB, I'll break his back? Who? You.
If they were caught killing Robert Kennedy, the president will send the Marines after us. But if they could kill John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson would become president. They hated each other bitterly, and that would be the end of Robert Kennedy's influence.
Days in grand jury, down, 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 down.
Cornwell tracked mob indictments during the HSCA.
This enormously effective organized crime program that Bobby Kennedy headed in the Department of Justice disintegrated after his brother was assassinated and Bobby left as Attorney General.
Robert Kennedy's vendetta targeted Sam Giancana, Santo Trafficante, and particularly Carlos Marcello in New Orleans, whom he wanted to deport. He was in the United States illegally. He was not a citizen.
Our investigation led us to a special sting operation in 1985. FBI files we combed through at the National Archives reveal informant Jack Van Lanningham shared a cell with Marcello.
He told me about a meeting with Oswald. He also told us about Jack Ruby. Marcello had met him in Dallas, Texas. Marcello was talking about his favorite subject, the Kennedys, and being deported. He flew into a rage, cussing the Kennedys. He said, yeah, I had that little son of a bitch killed and I'd do it again. He was a thorn in my side. I wish I could have done it myself.
The FBI asked Marcello if he made the revealing statement a few years later in 1989.
Marcello, of course, denied it, and that indicated to me that there was an informant report to that effect.
The FBI has the classified recordings, and Van Lanningham says the tapes also have Marcello naming Oswald as his hired gun and Ruby as his man in Texas. The tapes, if released, could help answer questions of conspiracy.
You got to explain Ruby and Oswald. Both of them had years associations with mafia figures. Ruby knew Savello, the head of the mafia in Dallas.
Oswald had grown up in New Orleans. His uncle, Dutz Moret, was a member of the Marcello organization.
That's the reason the mafia case is probably the strongest of any of them.
Next, how a 3D animation, along with the Zapruder film, places a second gunman in Dealey Plaza.